Hi, my name is Benjamin. I'm 9 years sober. I continue every day to look to help others, to give back to those who have helped me, and to the community that's given me everything back into my life.
I'm Heather Champion. I'm a licensed mental health counselor with a private practice. I met Ben while working at an outpatient treatment center called The Retreat that's not here anymore. We've maintained our friendship since then and enjoy taking time to talk about therapy and our lives as champions.
Disclaimer: the content of this video is intended for informational use only. It is in no way intended as a replacement for medical or psychological advice. Should you have a medical or psychological issue, please consult with a medical professional. Hey, everybody, it is the Real Champions podcast. I am Heather Champion.
Benjamin Champion.
And today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I got a little bit of hometown pride from this weekend for something really amazing that happened. I'm going to share a picture real quick to show y'all what I'm talking about. But bam, that is Patrick Ewing and Jalen Brunson holding the NBA Finals trophies. And how excited a kid from the 90s in New York is to see Pat Ewing finally holding a trophy, number one, and to see the kid who brought it to us, which actually is a friend of Pat Ewing's son, Jalen Brunson. So I know Ben and I were just kind of talking about this. I was so excited about the win. I would not watch. Tried to watch one of the games. Being in Florida, I don't get them locally and I don't have regular TV. So I had to figure out how to try to catch it on a streaming service. I couldn't do that. So I had to listen to it. They lost the one game I listened to. So I said, no, I'm not going to listen to it anymore. I am a very superstitious sports fan. But yeah, so Ben, what do you think of the Knicks win and the way that New York City responded?
As a Heat fan, it is difficult to see the Knicks win, but as a sports fan, it is one of the coolest things. Truthfully, it brought together friendships, people who didn't speak to each other for years. Now that the Knicks are back in, you just see a lot of people from all generations. And I think that's one of the coolest things about sports and teams winning championships after years, like when the Cubs won. You
Yeah.
got people born in the early 1900s who are still alive who got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
And to see youth and older come together and realize that we're all alike and we all love one giant team, I
Mhm.
just think is awesome. And that team specifically, because the Villanova ties, how they are a true brotherhood.
Mhm.
And the coolest thing I think about them is they're humans. None of them are stars in the sense of you walk by them in public, you can't speak to them. They all hold themselves with a accountability of they're human first and basketball players second.
Yeah.
And I think, just watching those three young men grow up really as I grew up, coming from Villanova, watching them in the Sweet 16 and winning the championships back to back, and then coming together as friends years later. It's just to me is it shows, yeah, sports and you can make a lot of money, but friendships could matter more than money. The happiness of being with your brothers, people that you can be yourself with. And
Yeah.
that's what I think that team shows more than anything is, yeah,
Mhm.
it's a business, but there's real brotherhood in this.
I think this particular team especially because we didn't like for back in the 90s when I was a huge Knicks fan when I was growing up. Well, I wasn't really growing up, I was in high school and college at that time, but like we identified with the Knicks as this underdog team. We had one marquee player and that was Pat Ewing, but the rest of the players really weren't big marquee players. We didn't like they brought in Jeremy Lin at one point and some other big players, but never had like a giant marquee player like LeBron James or Michael Jordan or somebody like that. We never had that in New York. And so the current team, right, the Jalen Brunson Knicks, if you want to call them that they're not big marquee players either. Like they're not giant marquee. And everybody, when they were building this team in New York, was complaining like they're not getting the good players. Like they're never going to make it to a championship with this team. And by bringing together like the underdogs and putting the underdogs together, then you made this championship team, which is very reminiscent of the 1986 Mets, who also that was an underdog team. It was a small team. There was mostly farm guys that were on there. And look at what those guys did. Back in 1986, the Mets had a really great run in the late 80s of championships. And I vividly remember all of those games because there was one that lasted, it went way into the night, and we were building a extension on the back of the house, and my mom put it on the TV, and I had piano lessons. So my mom took me to piano lessons and told the guys that were doing the construction, yeah, you guys can watch until the game ends. And then she took me to piano lessons, and we came home thinking that they were still sitting on our couch watching the game. But that was the same type of a team where it was just like these guys aren't being paid an enormous amount of money to do it comparatively to the other people, their peers. And they just like have a lot of that true grit and working together and making a great team. Um, and those Knicks, they really did make a great team. The come from behind wins that they were able to put together were absolutely stunning and amazing. And Jalen Brunson has now tied Michael Jordan for the most points scored in a championship game with 45. See,
Yeah.
I know my sports stats.
One of my favorite parts about that team is if you watch how they were built, there was like you said, there was a lot of animosity to how they were built.
Yes.
You had Mikal Bridges, who was traded for 5 first-round picks. And the thing that a lot of people and anybody who listens to this who enjoys sports and the human element of sports, I highly suggest you listen to the Dan Levitard show.
Mhm.
That show has taught me to view athletes as humans first and athletes second.
Yeah.
And one of the best things about this team in particular is every single one of their marquee players has gone through real life problems or real life, situations that we go through just in a lower type of level.
Right.
Jalen Brunson, when he got traded, nobody believed in him.
Right.
Karl Anthony Towns is a huge one. If anybody has time, look up his organization. He lost his mother to COVID during the pandemic, and he was very, very active in speaking out about grief and loss and going through his own mental health struggles.
Mhm.
And he's one who also tends to be a little more feisty, as he would call himself, than
Mhm.
others, where a lot of, the hardcore male athletes take shots at him for being um, too elaborate with his antics.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing is now that he won, you don't hear that anymore. And it's unfortunate, but it's also cool. We can move past this now. This man is a man who is out here doing the right things. So if
Right.
anybody ever has a chance, he has a partnered service organization he works with called Child Mind Institute that discusses mental health fitness and the importance of solid routines and support systems. And that's my favorite part about the Knicks. I am never going to be a Knicks fan because of James Dolan, but that's him doing him. But like I tell my friends, I will be a fan of the Knicks players because they are the true embodiment of overcoming and coming together and being that blue collar team. You
Yeah.
might not get all paid the amount that you think you should, but you came together because the dream was a championship, not your individual self.
Right. And that's what they were playing for, and that's what they did. That's what they accomplished as a team. And I think it's beautiful the way that New York City responded to it. Being a New Yorker, I really hated being all the way up down here in Florida, so far away in the country too. It was like, so there was no New Yorkers around me, so there was no one I could go to be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, did you see? But I watched the videos and I looked at the pictures, and I do supervision for people that are trying to get dual licensed in Florida and New York. And right now, my supervisees are all in Manhattan. And so they had some really fun stories about how excited they all were and going out into the street and hugging strangers and riding on people's shoulders and just being part of like all of this wonderful energy that was going on in there. I did see a couple of like reports of like violence and things like that, but I have to tell you, the people that I spoke to that were there, they did not express any of that. That really wasn't what was going on. This was a city coming together, and for the first time being able to come together for something happy. New York has been hit bad, both with Hurricane Sandy and with 9/11. And being a New Yorker, I was there for both of those things. And they were both incredibly painful, but we came together and we helped each other through it. Seeing everybody get to go outside and celebrate was fabulous. And
I think it was needed, and
mhm,
just a let out of emotions that we all are going through of just whatever's happening in this country. Yeah, New York of all places needed a place to come together and just say we're here together.
right.
And one of my friends hate it, but one of my favorite parts of all this was Taylor Swift being involved.
Oh,
Yes, he has the money to be upfront and whatever, you can complain about that. But I think for that woman to be as excited as she was in Knicks gear, to me, that is setting the future for the WNBA in 5, 10 years to be booming, the business for the NBA to be booming. Because to me, watching her celebrate and be so excited, that was just telling little girls out there that you can do this too. Go be the next Caitlin Clark. Go out there and you can be in the front stage like these men are.
yeah.
And to me, a lot of my friends, oh, Taylor just gets that because she's rich. Cool. She worked her way to get there.
Yeah,
But
she
the
worked hard.
fact that she helps women and just a attraction she's drawn to the NFL with
Mhm.
women, now that's just going to duplicate in the NBA. And especially with the NBA. There's a lot of domestic violence in the NBA. And I think having a woman like Taylor bring more women's attention to the NBA long term is really going to help the league out. So I just, for as many people who just hate that she was there for the money because she has access, cool. I look at it in the future, 10 years out, there's going to be a lot of girls running around out there because Taylor showed them, hey, basketball is a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I just think for sports in general, we need more of that. We need more powerful women like her out there and saying, "Hey, sports is a fun thing. It's a team activity." So that excited me.
I do love how big the WNBA has become. They're like most other women. I hate the fact that we have to call it the WNBA and not just like the NBA, that we have to distinguish between the women's one and then like the regular one. That's the kind of that pisses me off a little bit. But I do understand it. It's fine. I get it. But I do love how popular it's becoming. I do love how Caitlin Clark and some of the other ladies that have really exploded onto the scene, both like in their college career and then also in their professional career, that it's becoming huge. That there's the number of fans showing up for an NBA and a WNBA game is getting close to being very similar, and that's awesome that women can be seen as athletes too, because we are athletic. There's just as much that we can do, and I do love. I think was it last year or the year before and some of there was like a special thing that they did where they had 3-on-3 basketball, and I think it was over here.
Unrivaled down here in
Yeah,
Miami. Yep.
yeah, it was right here. And they had the male and female teams playing one another. And I was like, no, you guys, we need that. We need more of that because not for anything. Like I'm only 5'2", but when I used to play like most New York kids, I learned how to play basketball and I was a pretty decent point guard at 5'2". At 5'2", I could get around those big guys and get like, and when I started learning MMA fighting in my 30s. I was actually a really good fighter. And most of the guys like that were twice my size were like, no, we don't want to fight you because you're going to take us out. And I'm like, you're right. I will take you out because you're top heavy. And I can kick your foot out from right underneath you without putting a lot of effort into it, especially when I see all of your weight's on the wrong foot. And then down you come like a big old builder, right down. So, and they were just like, well, you fight dirty. And I'm like, no, I don't fight dirty. I fight fair for my size. Like I know how to take care of myself and don't screw around me. I'm taking care of me. And like and I think that those games with the 3-on-3, the men versus the women, that's amazing. I love watching stuff like that. That's a lot of fun for everybody to see how those teams work and how women and men can play against each other. There is no gender divide. I don't think that there is. There really is much of a gender divide in a lot of the sports that people like to say that there are.
One of the biggest factors for the Unrivaled League is actually back to the Dan Lebitard show. John Skipper is one of the founders of that league. He
Okay.
used to be the president of ESPN a few years back, and he unfortunately was let go due to cocaine usage.
Mhm.
But one of the things he did while he was at ESPN is brought people like Dan Lebitard, people of ethnicity, and mainly women of color. He brought them to the forefront of ESPN. And one of his big missions when he left ESPN was to do something like Unrivaled to show women's power in sports.
Yeah.
And it is still one of the biggest attractors down in Miami is Unrivaled women. It's not just the men, it's the women that people are showing up for.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
we need
like
more people.
when they put the men's teams versus the women's teams and let them play each other because or if they mix them up, like why not?
Mhm.
Like do mix 3-on-3 basketball. That there's nothing wrong with that. They do mixed doubles in tennis. Why not do it in basketball as well? There's no reason why we can't because the thing is that when we learn to work together, working as a team includes like between gender as well. It's not just, like, oh, the boys play for the boys and the girls play for the girls. Like we need to learn how to work all together. That's a good marriage. That's a good friendship. That's a good working relationship, right? Like we have something that we bring to the table that we're good at, and we have something to the table that we're not so great at. And so we find matches and help support each other. Like I'm good at this part, but you're good at that part. And I think showing that through basketball because basketball is an easy sport to watch. It's exciting, it's interesting. You can see what the athletes are actually doing as opposed to something like, hockey moves too fast and I can't follow that damn puck.
Yep.
Football, I love football. I'm a huge football fan. It does get a little slow at times, and you can't always see everything that's going on because it's like 28 guys on each side that you're watching, and you're watching blocking, and you're watching like tackles, and you're watching the ball movement. And there's a lot to keep, unless you know what you're looking at, you don't know what to look at if you're a football fan. And with baseball, like I know they've tried to speed it up with the pitch count and like all that stuff, but it still is it's boring. It's a boring sport to watch. And it's not something where you're going to necessarily see all the athleticism on display as well as you would a basketball game because it requires a lot of athleticism and you can see what's going on. You can say, hey, you know what, I can do that too.
An interesting thing with baseball is it just got replaced with phone time. It is our attention spans that have gotten worse, not baseball. Baseball has actually gotten better, more interesting. It is our attention spans. And it's replaced that sitting and eating a hot dog and you and I talking with, I'll sit on my couch and text with you.
Right.
So baseball's improvements are there. It's the human condition that is no longer there for the attention of baseball.
Yeah. I
But with
started
a
going
lot of
to games when I was this big, I
Yep.
was going to Mets games when I was just a little thing and they were boring when I was
But that's what we're used to is walking
right.
around the corridors, walking around and going to the kids zone. And just, even me growing up was we would go to baseball games just for the atmosphere of being able to walk around.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But that brought community, and now with the invention of phones, and that's taken that away. And I think that's what this Knicks championship did is it brought people together. No, I'm not going to sit at my house. I'm going to drive an hour to come to your house to watch the game with you because that's what community is. And I think that's what this did,
The
community.
one thing I thought was so beautiful about the way New York came together for this was that people were projecting the game onto the side of buildings so that other people could go and watch it that didn't have access. There was a picture that I saw, it was in a New York Times article of somebody put a projector screen on the side of a bodega and Hell's Kitchen, and the crowd of people just like standing there watching it, and there was a line of kids sitting at the bottom, and then they it was almost like they were sitting on stands, but they organized themselves appropriately so they could all see. And I was like, how beautiful is that? Like that is beautiful that you've got people coming together to watch this game. They want to be together while they're watching it. It was so
Unspoken bond.
yeah. There was another shot that was part of that article that was a couple of Arab girls. One of them had a hijab on, and they were decked out in Knicks gear, but the one had her hijab on. And then behind them is a whole crowd of people just like going crazy over it. And I'm like, that is so beautiful. Like that just shows us how we are all the same. We
Melting
are
pot.
we are all the same. Like, there is nothing that really separates us. That if a basketball championship could bring us together like that, then anything can. And we need
One
to,
of the coolest
yes, it was awesome.
is the World Cup being here
Hmm.
and seeing when you look at England or you look at the Irish coming here, they're all the same color. You don't see anything different. But
Hmm.
when you put New York fans together, it was a melting pot of everybody, every race, every age group, every rich, poor. It didn't matter for once in a long time in New York. Everybody was a New Yorker.
Yeah.
And you don't want to piss New York off. That's what it reminds you also. If New York wants to come together as a family, that is one town you never want to be a part of on the wrong side of.
It
And I
is
think
the,
that's a reminder to
yeah.
us as Americas, we can do this.
New York is the biggest small town in the world.
Yep.
Because like and that's the thing, like people say New Yorkers are rude. No, we're not rude, we're straightforward. We're gonna tell you what we think, like that's it. But we're also gonna tell you when you get spinach in your teeth, when you got toilet paper stuck to your foot, when your fly is open. And these are things that like I would think we would all want to know. Right? I would think we would
Yep.
all want to know that. Like, I don't want to walk out and be embarrassed that everybody's looking at like the fact that I've got green stuff in my teeth. But in other parts of the country, that's considered to be rude.
Yep.
New Yorkers are not like that. And like as a New Yorker, and like, I may not be living there, I may not be living there for 11 years now, almost. Next month will be 11 years. I will always like you can take the girl out of New York, but you can't take New York out of the girl. Get together with the right people, my accent gets super thick. And there's no doubt about where I'm from. And there's a sense of community in New York that you don't find everywhere. And it's something that I really miss living down here in Florida. I miss the community of New York that, I joke around with people. I'm like, have you ever watched the show Impractical Jokers? They have all these skits where guys sit down on a park bench and they start talking to the person next to them. I'm like, that's not just for the show. People really do that.
Mhm.
People really sit down. Like when I worked in Manhattan, that was something that I would do. I'd sit down on a park bench and I would talk to the person sitting next to me. You sit down on the train, you talk to the next person over. If somebody on the train is having a hard time, everybody goes and helps them. It's not the thing where everybody's going to walk away. No, everybody comes and helps. Everybody tries to make things better. And like the attitude of the New Yorkers leave things better than you found them. We're always trying
Very
to do
true.
that, right? That's what we do. It's a very northeastern kind of a way of handling things. But since I moved to Florida, I've been really disappointed in the fact that if I sit down on a park bench next to somebody, they're going to get up and walk away. They're not going to talk to
Human
me.
connection. Yeah. Human connection is gone from a lot of us.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, because I do miss that about New York. My family's still up there, so I know that it's still like that, where you can just go to look at a stranger and be like, "Do you know where this is?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's over there." It's like, "Oh, okay,
It's
thank
not
you."
down here.
Like, you go do your thing. Like here, it's like it takes you 20 minutes to flag somebody down. Like, I need help with finding where this is. I don't know what you're talking about, but you know,
No lack of trust down here.
yeah,
Lack
yeah,
of trust.
yeah. It's
But if anybody wants to really look into the mental health of these players, this was a very good combination of the mental health of this world. Because we also got Wemby on the other side,
Mhm.
who's a 19-year-old kid who talked a lot of shit. And he did not do this gracefully. And it's very interesting watching the older and younger players kind of try to figure out how to talk about him because he is going to be the face of the league. There's no question of that.
Right.
But what part of this is you're a pro athlete, but at the same time, you're a 19-year-old, and I'll go line up a bunch of 19-year-olds, and not one of them's going to handle this right. And
No.
it's also remembering these are kids. As a 19-year-old kid on the world stage, not on the world stage, the biggest stage in America,
Right.
on the prime time.
Right.
We could question his inability all we want, but I think my favorite part about sports is put yourself in a 19-year-old shoes. How would you handle this? Because I sure as hell would have been drinking this away.
Oh,
And it's one of those real reminders of these are kids.
yeah.
These are kids we're putting a lot of grown-up expectations on.
Yeah.
Could he have handled it better? Absolutely. But you know what? The way we know if he learned from this is next year when he shows up.
Yeah.
So I think
Well,
there's a lot of mental health involved in this that is very interesting because you got the Aaron Fox now too,
mhm,
who is getting shit talked all the way up and down. And he's actually unfollowed the Spurs on social media.
mhm.
My friend and I had this discussion yesterday of, well, that's kind of childish. Well, this is the new age. This is the new power dynamic. So
Right.
there's a lot wrapped up in this one championship that for us mental health folk is actually very interesting and you can cue a lot in on it.
Right. I think it's such a beautiful win for New York. And yeah, it does highlight some of the areas that we still need to work. Like that comment that Wemby made, talk to you never, when he was walking away from the press conference, which was really unfortunate that he said that. Like, no, you are going to talk to them again because you are now a player in the NBA, and next year your team will be expected to win it all. And if you don't and you act like that again, you're not making friends by saying stuff like that.
Yep, and you're the face of the league. This is part of growing up. Part of the challenge of being the face of the league is you gotta do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Just like us going to therapy. You
Yeah.
gotta do things you don't want to do because the end result is you're gonna be in a better place than you were before.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll see if he graduates out of his, um, petulant child phase, over
Well,
the
he's got
course of the
Greg
years.
Popovich to answer for, so I think if anybody could whip you into being a proper child, it would be Greg Popovich.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
And
it is really hard with kids at that age, especially because, like, how much money did he get when he signed with them, with the Spurs? Like, he's got more money than God, and he's kind of dictating what the Spurs can and can't do because he is their marquee player. So, like, how much can you rein him in, and how many boundaries can you put on him about that? Yeah, he's going to be talked to a lot, but I mean, one of the things that we talk about a lot is like having consequences for your actions. When you can't put a limit on the amount of money, right? Because he's already got more than he can possibly do anything with. They need him, so they're not going to put a limit on his playing time. What would they do? It's something interesting to think. Like, we need consequences for our bad behaviors, and what type of consequences will Wemby get for behaving inappropriately in that situation? I think that's interesting to think about it from that perspective because, I think that's one of the big things that you and I have to deal with when people come through the door is that they've never had consequences.
Mhm.
And so they're rolling off the rails all over the place because no one taught them how to stay the course. And that if you don't, then bad things will happen. Then things unfortunately will happen to you. It's unfortunate, but we shall see. We shall see how next.
Always the biggest thing you can do when watching sports wrestlers is,
Mhm.
yeah, they're an athlete that says they're professional. But remember, most of them are younger than most of us watching them. And we
Exactly.
have to put ourselves in their shoes with that FU money.
Right.
Yeah, it's very easy to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I got millions in the bank. How do you control your temper?
Well, I
It's
mean,
very interesting.
there's thinking about the age thing. Like, Michael Jordan, kids these days, like my niece is 16, and she got into an argument with me a year ago about who was the Michael Jordan for Jordan sneakers. And I was like, Michael Jordan, the basketball player. There's a basketball player named Michael Jordan, she said. She's 16. She's too young to remember Michael Jordan playing basketball at all. Now he lives down in Jupiter, right? And like he's a healthy guy. He's going to be around for at least, a good 20 more years at least, right? The majority of these guys' lives are spent not playing. That's how early their careers are in their lifespan. So we have to remember that these guys are very young that we're looking to. Like when they make dumb mistakes, like can't like Scadaboo did some stupid crap, like banging his head
Hmm.
into a wall or something um
He's a kid.
recently. But he's young. He's only like what, 22 years old, if that.
Yep.
He's still really, really young. By the time he gets to be my age, he'll barely be able to stand up. I mean, when he gets to be your age, they'll be talking about retirement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you thinking
And
about
for a lot of
retirement?
them,
No.
short, and a lot of them are shorter than even my age of 34. For a running back, it's maybe 28.
Right. And then it's
But it's
moving on to something else, right?
and a
So,
lot of these sports guys is yeah, it's you have maybe a 10-year window, and then what do you do after? And
right.
I think there's a lot more conversation, especially with the recent amount of suicides in the NFL. Alden Smith just passed away. And on his last day on earth, one of the last things he did was he was doing charity. He
Mhm.
was going delivering food.
That's
And it's a true representation of you can have all the money in the world,
mhm.
but the damage that sports does and the lifestyle you have to live is sometimes it's really, yeah, I take $10 million today, but if I can't walk by 35, I don't know what $10 million is worth for me.
Right.
And I think that's the interesting thing with sports is we judge a 10-year window and then we forget about you.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate thing.
Right. Well, I think that's all for today. I think we went a little over in our time, but I think we did a good job of discussing this stuff, and we will see you again next time, guys. Real Champions Podcast, Season 2, Episode 8, The Knicks Win. What does it mean to be a champion when that's your name? The Real Champions Podcast is co-hosted by Heather Champion and Benjamin Champion. It's edited by Heather Champion. Produced by Maitri Counseling Services, all rights reserved. Questions or comments can be referred to Heather at Maitri Therapy, MAITRI-therapy.com.
You are not alone. Remember, if you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-TALK. For local help, dial 211 on your phone to be connected to resources in your area. If you experience mental health or substance abuse issues, please call the National Alliance or Mental Health or NAMNI at 1-800-950-NAMNI, or in a crisis, text NAMI, NAMI, to 741-741. Check out the NAMNI website, nami.org, for additional resources.